What's up, guys, gals, and everything in between? Josh here, and today Bungie dropped a huge patch on Destiny 2 that includes all kinds of weapon tuning, super tuning, and some other cool stuff. So we're going to break down all of the patch notes. I'm not going to go over the bugs in there because I don't want to be here all day, and I'm sure you don't either. But if you want to read the full patch notes, I'll put a link to them in the description. So here we go. First things first, almost every super in the game got a buff, minus a couple. A couple of the problematic ones actually got nerfs, and we'll talk about that. I'm looking at you, Nova Warp. Hunters, Gunslingers, Golden Gun Super, increased damage to bosses by 40%, which includes 6-shooter and Celestial Nighthawk. So that strat with Celestial Nighthawk taking down bosses and all that good stuff, that's probably coming back because that's a pretty big buff. Golden Gun 6-shooter, base damage increased from 275 to 300 per shot. Kills now return a bullet to the Golden Guns magazine. That is awesome. So now if you are running around in a strike or you are just using it on low-level mobs, you're more incentivized to use it against low-level mobs because you're going to get a bullet back, and you're gonna make orbs and stuff. This is a cool change. Line 'em up perk, doubled precision damage bonus per stack of the buff. Cool, cool. Practice makes perfect perk, stack limit increased from 3 to 5. Super regen modifier increased by 20. Cool. Blade barrage super, impact damage decreased from 150 to 35. All right. Explosion damage increased from 150 to 250. Now deals self-damage. Some people are not going to like that. But Blade Barrage has been basically everywhere. It's almost like, why use anything else? So I think it needed a little bit of a nerf. I don't know if it needed self-damage, but we'll see. Bungie goes on to explain, our goal for AoE supers of this type is that they incur self-damage when activated too close to a target. We consider Blade Barrage not causing self-damage a bug, which we are now addressing. In other words, hunters will know how warlocks feel when they throw a Nova Bomb into a wall. I hear what they're saying here. I feel like people are going to be a bit upset, but I understand the motive here. They don't want hunters just kind of going, hugging a boss and just throwing out their exploding knives and all that. So, I mean, we'll see how this shakes out. I think overall it'll make people use other supers other than knives, which I think is a good thing. But we'll see. I have a feeling they might end up bumping Blade Barrage back up in the next patch or something, because I have a feeling the other supers are just going to outshine it so much now. Hunter, Night Stalker, the Mobius Quiver. Tethered targets now have full damage increase rather than needing to be tethered by multiple shadow shots. Cool. Additionally, the shadow shot damage bonus to tethered targets was increased. That is pretty sweet. Again, get people off of knives, get them back on other supers, and using other trees, because the Mobius Quiver, nobody ever used it because it wasn't very good. Now it sounds like it's pretty decent. Increased Mobius Quiver tether radius by 20%. That's hard to say really fast. Increased Mobius Quiver tether lifetime. Made it easier to fire successive shadow shots. Yes, Mobius Quiver desperately needed a buff. Nobody used it. Nobody liked it. So now maybe it'll get some use. And in the developer commentary, they say this is step 1 for Shadow Shot, and we intend to keep improving the way it works. For this pass, we focused on Mobius Quiver quality of life. We plan to continue to make it more effective and globally relevant in the future. Awesome to hear. Spectral Blade Super. Bonus damage resistance while in stealth decreased from 15% to 5%. While in Spectral Blades and in stealth, total damage resistance is 62%. Total super duration while invisible decreased by 3.67 seconds. That's pretty good. I think that this is mainly a PvP nerf. I don't think anybody was complaining about Spectral Blades in PvE, but maybe Spectral Blades were a little too powerful in PvE. I don't know that that's the case. I can't see why, but this definitely screams of a PvP nerf. Hunter Arc Strider Arc Staff Super. Heavy ranged and slam attack damage increased from 222 to 300. Heavy palm blast attack damage increased from 400 to 700. My goodness, that is a huge buff. Lethal Current perk, bonus hit damage has been increased from 100 to 130. Radion Flux exotic armor damage bonus decreased from 20% to 13.5. This change keeps the bonus damage granted by this exotic about the same. Because this is calculated on a smaller scaler, instead of a flat number, any big changes in base damage have a large effect on the exotic. So they basically bumped the exotic down because of the massive buff to Arc Striders. And it's a pretty massive buff when you've buffed one of the attack damages by 300 points. That's pretty good. I hope people actually use it now. Titan Sunbreaker Sunspots. Damage increased from 25 to 50 per tick. Cool. Sun Warrior perk. Buff now increases all damage output from the Sunbreaker by 20% in PvP and 25% in PvE. Awesome. Buff duration has been increased from 3 to 5 seconds. Cool. I'm into that. I'm into... Sunbreakers are my favorite Titan class. I'm into them getting stronger. Burning Maul Super. Spin melee attack damage increased from 65 to 80% per hit. Slam detonation radius increased from 5 to 6 meters. And improved slam attack projectile targeting. I think there were some other things that people may have wanted from Burning Maul. I know that there has always been this concern about knocking enemies into the air. And people have wanted that tuned for a long time, but hopefully this makes fans of the Burning Maul Super happier. Titan Sentinel. Sentinel Shield Super. Final melee combo hit damage increased from 300 to 390. Damage to PvE combatants increased by 17%. That's a pretty good buff. Titan Striker Fist of Havoc. Titan Striker Fist of Havoc Super. Heavy Slam Attack R2 RT. Base damage decreased from 325 to 275. Damage to base, elite, and mini-boss combatants increased by 7%. Damage to bosses increased by 23%. And damage to vehicles increased by 60%. So your base damage has gone down, but the damage to combatants has actually gone up, which is an interesting change. I'm curious to see how it shakes out. Terminal Velocity perk. Changed the way that bonus damage from this perk is granted. Added a third threshold tier based on how long you are in the air before impact. Interesting. Arc damage hits per tier increased from 3 to 4. Tier 1, 4 hits. Tier 2, 8 hits. Tier 3, 12 hits. Increased damage per arc hit from 100 to 112. Cool. Again, I'm happy to see them buffing other things that aren't being used as much and trying to get them used a lot more. Code of the Juggernaut. Fist of Havoc shoulder charge energy cost reduced by 83%. My goodness. Trample perk can now trigger the energy return every half second, up from 1 second. Cool. Warlocks. My brethren. My sisterin. Here we go. Warlock Voidwalker. Cataclysm Nova Bomb. Initial detonation damage increased from 900 to 1500. Oh my goodness. Detonation radius increased from 8 to 10 meters. Seeker projectile detonation damage increased from 205 to 300. Improved Seeker projectile turning radius and homing to make it more consistent to use against bosses and single targets. Fixed an issue where Seeker projectiles could be prematurely detonated. This was so needed because I used to love playing Voidwalker. I used to love playing Nova Bomb, but it just really did not feel at all compared to things like Nova Warp. It was like, why am I going to use Nova Bomb when I get a Nova Bomb, you know, every 2 seconds coming out of me? So hopefully this change makes people actually use Nova Bomb again. And I like that they've incentivized you to use it against larger targets, because in the past you would Nova Bomb a boss and it felt like you did nothing, and it wasn't good, especially when you had like the knives from the hunters doing so much damage to bosses, and you just did not feel as a warlock like you could compete or you know, help out in that sense. Now I feel like you have a more reasonable, or a more feasible, I should say, way to combat bosses with your super. Vortex Nova Bomb, initial detonation damage increased from 900 to 1200, and linger volume damage increased from 10 to 23 per tick. Again, another huge Nova Bomb buff. Cool. Nova Warp Super. I'm sorry to say Nova Warp has been nerfed. It was way too strong. It hasn't been hit too hard, so I wouldn't worry too much. Slightly slowed movement while charging. Definitely a PvP centered change. Charging costs more energy, so you can't just charge and like wander around and hope that you find somebody. Initial charge cost, which is each time you trigger the super, has increased by 60%. That's a lot. I take it back, that's a lot. Sustained drain cost, holding, increased by 60%. No longer are you just gonna hold it and wander around. You gotta be more tactical. Duration decreased by 6.8 seconds, my goodness. Decreased super damage resistance from 56% to 54%, and damage against guardians decreased by 27%. Wow, that is a huge nerf. We'll see if people even still use Nova Warp after this, because that's pretty substantial. Warlock Dawnblade. Daybreak Super. Increased damage against minor, major, and mini-boss combatants by 43%. This is amazing. I love Dawnblade. I want a reason to go back. I felt like I've been forced to use Nova Warp for the last couple months because it's just so strong. And I can go back to my baby, Dawnblade. So excited. Warlock, Stormcaller, Stormtrance Super. Increased chain lightning maximum target count by 1. This is a pretty good change. I like the idea of just chaining more enemies. I feel like the last buff they did to Stormcaller was actually pretty decent. It's pretty good for clearing ads and stuff. All right, now we're gonna get into the weapons tuning, and there's quite a few things here. Quite a few good changes too that I'm pretty excited about. Auto rifles, love me some auto rifles. Increased base damage on rapid fire auto rifles by 9%, very cool. Increased base damage on high impact auto rifles by 5%, and increased base damage on adaptive auto rifles by 6%. So pretty much every auto rifle getting a buff, getting a pretty decent buff. So hopefully we actually see people use them some more. Scout rifles. Increased base damage on lightweight scout rifles by 5%, increased base damage on rapid fire scout rifles by 6%, and increased all scout rifle PvE damage by 10%. Scout rifles have been in a pretty bad place for a few months now. They just do not feel like they do anything. Like I feel like I shoot stuff and it's taking me way longer than using literally anything else. So I'm glad that scout rifles have got a buff. I'm excited to try them out, see if they've changed, if they've gotten good at all. Very cool. Sniper rifles. Increase base damage of rapid fire sniper rifles by 8%. You can two-shot to the body to defeat other guardians in PvP. That's interesting. I don't think it's probably gonna be that big of a problem, mainly because the headshot still kills in one hit, and if you're probably faster with the one headshot, you're gonna probably stop them. And of course there's staggering and all that good stuff, so yeah, this doesn't really worry me too much. I think it'll just get people to use snipers more in PvP, so that's always good. Grenade launchers. Tweaked grenade launcher projectiles to feel more consistent on direct hits. Cool. I love grenade launchers. They're probably my favorite special in the entire game, so any love that grenade launchers can get, I'm down for. Proximity grenades can no longer impact directly, which prevents special ammo grenade launchers from one-shotting with the perk active. Increased ammo reserve size of special ammo grenade launchers. Cool. Increased initial spawn ammo in PvE for special ammo grenade launchers. Cool, cool, cool. I like the idea of more ammo. I like the idea of more consistency. Bows made the effect of draw time from bowstring perks more noticeable. High tension string, flexible string, elastic string, and polymer string. The accuracy strat from high tension string was increased from 10 to 15 to better compensate for the slower draw time. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I never wanted to use really high impact bows because it's like you wind it up and you shoot it, and if you miss, like just barely, like you've wasted so much time and so much damage potential. This is a great change. Known issue, so beware for this. The tooltip for high tension string was not updated to show the larger accuracy increase. This will be addressed in a future update. So you're not gonna see that you're gonna get more accuracy in the actual UI, but if you use high tension string, you will get more accuracy. Legend of Acreus. Remember this gun? Remember it? Range increased by 0.5 meters. Cool. PvE damage increased by 50%. Wow, very cool. I now have a reason to bust out my Legend of Acreus again because I haven't used it in, God knows how long. That's exciting. Telesto. Oh, the dreaded Telesto. Let's see what happened to it. Reduced base damage of each bolt by 19%. Wow. Increased optics stat from 15 to 20% to be comparable with other fusion rifles with scope perks. PvE damage increased by 30%. So if you liked Telesto in PvE, worry not, it's even better now. But if you've been running around with Telesto like kind of I have in the Crucible for the last couple months, it might not be as good. It might not be as good. Trace rifles. Trace rifles now gain additional ammo when picking up special ammo. Good, because they burn through ammo so fast. Reduced damage output of Wave Splitter against Guardians. I play on PC, so I've never even used Wave Splitter, so I have no frame of reference for these changes, but I'm gonna name them, and hopefully you know what I'm talking about if you play on PS4. Reduced by 19% on medium damage mode, reduced by 27% on high damage mode, and adjustments were made to keep the damage output the same in PvE activities. Exotic armor. Here we go. We need buffs to exotic armor. They are not as interesting, so let's see what they did. Tuned energy values on Shards of Galanor to accompany changes to the Blade Barrage Super. Reduced maximum energy return from 90% to 75% of the total super. Now only returns energy on the knife impacts. Reduced energy return on Gwysyn Vest from 10% to 7% of the total super. So Shards of Galanor getting a nerf. It's unfortunate, but you know, Knife Hunter's a little too strong, but hopefully Shards of Galanor is still something you're gonna want to use. Next thing is all about the Crucible. Hopefully we get some cool Crucible changes. Here we go. Breakthrough. Fixed an issue where deploying the breaker or hacking the vault exactly as time expired could end the round in an incorrect state. Okay. Heavy ammo tuning. This is something we've been asking for a long time in the Crucible across all the modes, and it has different effects in every single Crucible mode. So, in competitive control, initial timers will stay the same. The increased respawn timer for heavy ammo was 45 seconds. It's now 120 seconds. 2 full minutes. That's good. Less heavy ammo in competitive Crucible is honestly a much needed thing. Clash initial timers also staying the same. Increased respawn timer for heavy ammo was 45 seconds, now 120. Survival initial timer also staying the same, but they increased the respawn timer for heavy ammo. It was 45 seconds, now it's 60 seconds. And now for the rotators, Showdown. Initial timers stay the same. Increased respawn timer for heavy ammo was 30 seconds, it's now 60 seconds. So, a lot less ammo. Rumble, initial timers also staying the same. Increased respawn timer for heavy ammo was 60 seconds, now 120 seconds. Good, because in Rumble, I feel like if you can get the heavy early on, you can get such a sizable lead, and it's bad. The ammo counts in all modes reduced heavy crate ammo for machine guns. Good, because everyone has been using machine guns. They're so good, and it's, you know, it's fine in PvE. Like, having a lot of ammo in your heavy machine gun is cool in PvE, but in PvP, especially with the way that the timers were, it was a bit much. Next, we have some changes to the Redrick's Broadsword quest, Valor rank resets. The Valor rank reset step will now look at previous season's accomplishments as well. 5 Valor resets are still required during a single season, but this is no longer restricted to the current season. Example, if a player had 5 Valor resets in Season 4, this will now grant progress towards the quest. Cool. I still need 5 Valor resets. Completion inconsistencies. Fixed various issues where the quest was not progressing to the pickup step until a player re-entered orbit. Crucible ranks, enhancement cores. Fixed an issue that prevented enhancement cores from being awarded when reaching legend in Valor and Glory ranks. All right, couple changes to activities. We're getting through it. There's a lot of patch notes. Raids, Scourge of the Past, fixed an issue where players could initiate damage phases for the boss encounter too early, and fixed an issue where the Like a Diamond Flawless Triumph was not being rewarded properly. Black Armory and the Forges, fixed an issue where players were not being properly credited when consuming keys for the Mysterious Box quest. Players already affected by this issue will be awarded credit for the keys they've used the next time they log in. It is still possible on rare occasions for players to use a key and not complete the objective. When this happens, returning to orbit should resolve the issue. Forge emblems are now awarded from Forge completions rather than Forge-specific bounty completions. Modulus reports and ballistics logs will now go to the postmaster if lost. Cap on Modulus reports remains at 15 per account. When hunting for high-value targets on Nessus for the Civics Delivery Note quest step, all players who damage the enemy will be given credit toward the kill. Players can no longer purchase weapon frames if the pursuit bucket is full. Good, because I've lost weapon frames doing this, and it's frustrating. Black Armory lore drops have been increased to 20%, up from 10%, and successful Forge completions are now required to earn the reward. This is a little frustrating for lore people like me. People were queuing into the Forges with just barely any light level and just letting it sit there until they got the lore drops. I don't know if this is a good enough change. 20% still seems like a lot. Like, why don't you just give us, there's so many of the lore drops, why don't you just give us them after finishing, you know, a weapon frame or finishing something, because then it's like, oh, in 2 weeks you can have it all. And that seems a little better, honestly. Weapon frame updates. Ballistics logs no longer removed at reset. You asked for it and you got it. Now you can keep your ballistics logs. Very cool. Ballistics logs increased cap to 5 per character. So now you can save them if you want, which is very cool. Ritual frame quests carried across reset now refund into purchase currency. Gold frames refunded into 1 ballistics log. Silver frames refunded into 3 modulus reports. Any instance of a radiant matrix removed on weekly reset. Players should stop experiencing frames missing from Ada's inventory on a week-to-week basis. Players may still only purchase up to 2 gold frames per week. All Nessus Fallen Captain high-value targets around the Exodus Black will now spawn correctly. Public event Whispers on IO now occur more frequently. And there's something to note about that last patch note. Bungie announced this morning that the Whisper of the Worm quest is always active now. You can just go to IO and you can just do it, which is great because I still have friends who have not done it, and it's because they mostly play on weekdays and they just have not had a chance to get in there and get Whisper of the Worm, and now they can on a Tuesday if they want, which is great. I like this change. It was cool at the time that it was only on the weekends and you had to, you know, do secret things to get it, but at this point it's been almost a year. I think it's fine to have a catch-up mechanic after that. Overall, I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing in the patch notes. Obviously there's a lot of changes to competitive that I'd still like to see, and who knows, Crucible still needs a little bit of love. But in terms of getting the other supers powered up and bumping down the ones that were a little too strong or just a little too prevalent, I'm into it. So we'll see how it shakes out, and let me know. Let me know your thoughts, guys, gals, and everybody in between in the comments. What's your favorite patch note from this release, and what are you most sad about not being included in this latest patch? That's gonna do it for me. That's gonna do it for me, everybody. Please like, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until then, I'll catch y'all later. Bye. Love you.